Welcome to People. I'm Micah Matera. Let's get started. Toni Morrison once said, "Your life is already artful, just waiting for you to make it art." And that's what our first guest has done. Dr. Gladys Devane's autobiography, Come Sit With Me, Life in Poetry, Prose, and Plays, covers her 82 years of life and learning, and she joins us today. Hello, 82 years young. How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Oh, I am wonderful. So wonderful to speak with you. Someone who has taken their life and turned it into art. How can one do that? What was that like, and what made you decide to do it?
Well, first, it's really not an autobiography. It's more a collection of works, and many of them reflect experiences that I've personally had. And what made me do this? Well, when I retired at the young age of 65, I decided that I would return to my first love, which was theater. And I was a professor at Indiana University. And so I went to the theater department and I said, you know, I'm a faculty member and I would like to audit a couple of classes here so that I can tool up and get back into theater. And so I audited a couple of acting classes, and then I found myself back on the stage, and I realized that if I wanted to really be on the stage, I would have to probably write my own parts. So that took me back into writing. And I wrote one-person shows and had done quite a number of them. And along came COVID, and I thought, I need to put these into a book. And so I compiled a book entitled Come Sit With Me, Life in Poetry, Prose, and Plays. And that's what the book is about. It consists of 8 poems. And everything in the book I wrote, 8 poems and 9 plays, stage performance stories. And so that's what got me back, you know, into what I love best.
So COVID was good to you?
COVID was good to me.
Sounds like you did a lot of reflecting, a lot of writing, and did it surprise you that all that stuff was inside of you?
Well, kind of. It really surprised me that poetry was inside of me. Mm-hmm. I knew that I could write one-person shows. I knew that I could take a historical event and frame it so that it could be performed on stage. But I'd never written poetry before, and I didn't think of myself as a poet.
But I guess you are.
think of myself as a poet. I happen to write a few poems. Mm-hmm. So what was surprising was the ease with which I fell into writing poetry. Is
there a theme in your poetry? I know that you talk a lot about the racism that you've experienced throughout your life. Grew up in Oklahoma City, went to Oklahoma State University, I think it is.
That is correct.
You say that racism was a part of everything that you did. Do you find that it was easy to write about? Is that a theme in your poetry at all?
Well, it's covered in a number of pieces included in the book. I tell the story of Fannie Lou Hamer and her quest.
She was tired of being tired.
That is absolutely right. I tell the story of Rosa Parks. Mm-hmm. I tell the story of Mattie Jacobs Fuller, a woman who settled here in Bloomington. Mm-hmm. All of those are related to history of slavery and segregation, and I created a couple of stories that were a fiction. What Little Missy Didn't Know, the story of a slave who taught herself to read.
So it's not all from your own experiences. You kind of take all these ladies' experiences, sounds like, and puts them in your work.
That is correct. That is correct. My own personal experience. I wrote the story of my older son, who is severely challenged. And I wrote the story of how I came to realize that he had special needs and the kind of challenges that we have had as family members in dealing with that.
What do you hope that people get out of your experiences, out of what you're sharing and things like that? And may I correct myself, Fannie Lou Hamer, I'm sick and tired of being tired. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Sick and tired, right? Sick and tired of being sick and tired. What do you hope people get from this?
Well, I hope, first of all, they realize that African American women are strong and resilient, and we plow along in spite of it all. I hope that they get from this that life is a bundle of successes and failures and disappointments and sadness and joy and happiness, and all of it is a part of life. And we must embrace it and deal with it and move on.
It's a part of what makes us who we are.
Absolutely. It is absolutely what makes us who we are.
What do you want to become of this book? Well, maybe I should say, what's the next step after this book?
Well, one of the things that I would really like to see happen is this book and books like this become included in school curricula. I think storytelling provides a unique way to engage students and to break through that wall that exists when we try to talk about race, when we try to talk about African American struggle, when we try to talk about those experiences that have shaped us and made us who we are. It's hard to talk about race.
We know that's why we're in the situation we are now.
Absolutely.
If we would have more discussions about race, frankly, and not be afraid of taking it head on and just sit down, I think that would make a difference, don't you?
Yes, ma'am, exactly. And I want both sides, all sides, to learn to talk about race without becoming confrontational and shutting each other off. I want each side to learn to listen and understand where I'm coming from. You may not agree, but I want you to understand where I'm coming from. And I need to understand where you are coming from and how you got to the point that you are today. And we can't do that unless we're willing to listen.
It's all about education, and you have to see both sides. I mean, there's so many sides that we don't see and we don't know. And if we came together and shared it, I think we'd understand a lot more. And someone who has experienced it, as you have, can share so much knowledge.
That is correct. That is correct. Some of the experiences that I had growing up, I've had people ask me, but you're not bitter. You don't hate white folks. Why is it that you're not bitter and Sally Jane or Mary Sue or John Doe or whomever, it seems to be angry and bitter? I said, because I had in my life people who guided me and helped me through and taught me to not be bitter. So where we are at any point in life is predicated on our personal experiences and how we have learned to deal with those personal experiences.
Dr. Gladys Devane, thank you so very much. Be safe, be well. Happy holidays to you.
And thank you very much, and same to you.
Thank you. Again, the book is called Come Sit With Me, Life in Poetry, Prose, and Plays.